it just kind of
I know.
Falling asleep in the dentist chair. That's it.
Even possible.
Have you met John? Olivia, Jessica, John.
Hello.
I don't think we've met John.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we're there. Good spot.
God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Let's stand up and sing this. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything that I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Love is love. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything that I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need. Joy, joy, joy is my source. Joy is my power. Joy gives me everything that I need. Oh, so I give thanks for all my blessings. Joy gives me everything I. Now peace, peace. Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I need. Let's pray on that.
And so we turn our attention within as we know the truth of our opening statement. So let's affirm it together. There is but one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotence.
All right, we're going to sing it again. We're going to sing a God is my source. We'll build up the band as we're going. But for right now, try and personalize that. What do you believe is your source? What do you sometimes mistakenly believe is your source? And what can you turn back and remember God is your source every time? And let that sort of start from your feet in the floor, work up your knees, pelvis, back, and the shoulders, and move it a little bit. To remember that you are constantly sourced. Sing it out. 1, 2. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I. Sing it once again. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. 3 times. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything that I need. God gives me everything I need. Nice.
Good morning, and welcome to Seattle Unity, both in-house and at home. For those of you watching at home, we would like to know where you're watching from and what your name is so that we can call you out at the end of the service, as well as any prayer requests. And for those of us in the room, our prayer requests box is out in the lobby. You can fill that out, and the prayer team will bless you throughout this week. So before we begin, is there anybody here with us for the very first time and or visiting from another place? Welcome. Where are you from? Seattle. Welcome. Thank you for being with us today. Anybody else? All right. Where? Where are you from? What? Iran. Wow, welcome. Long way away. Thank you. And somebody else? Where are you from? Two Seattles. All right. So let's turn to our mission statement this morning, and let's affirm this together. We are a welcoming spiritual community, thriving in the heart of Seattle, celebrating, inspiring, and deepening our individual and collective spiritual journeys. So thank you for being with us. And just a reminder, there's always coffee and tea, especially for first-timers. There's coffee and tea upstairs and a few snacks. A couple of announcements is that the women's group meets today. So you don't have to have gone before to come. We invite you. I believe they meet at around 11:30.
Is it today or next week?
Is it next week? Yes? Never mind, everybody. Cross that off my list. So I don't know if you know, but there is a meditation that meets at 9 a.m. every Sunday. It's being led by different members of our community, and they meet downstairs in the focus room. So if you're feeling this need to deepen your spiritual connection to the Spirit within, then we invite you to join this group at 9 a.m. every Sunday. And finally, I'm leading an Astrodrama group part 2 on September 8th. It's a Saturday from 10 to 3. You don't have to take the first one to come, but there will be, I do need to talk with you a little bit about a review. So what is Astrodrama? So basically we embody the planets. So I have some costumes and some props, and so rather than just talk about Mars, I'm going to ask you to be Mars. But not just be any Mars, because if you're going to be a Mars in Libra, then you're going to be a nicer Mars than if you were a Mars in Aries. So anyway, no offense. Anyway, so but you must pre-register because I do have to have your birth data for that. So check the website for that. For those at home, the chat prompt today is, and we can even use that here in this room, at what age did you first start to think about spirituality? So for those of you at home, you have your chat prompt, go, and for those of us in the room, let's greet one another.
Standing as you are able. Today we're going to talk about service, walking the talk. So we're going to sing this old traditional. Goes like this. Somebody's knocking at my door. Somebody's knocking at my door. Oh, Spirit, I'm bound to answer. Somebody's knocking at my door. Try it. Somebody's knocking at my door. Somebody's knocking at my door. Oh, Spirit. Oh, Spirit, I'm bound to answer. Somebody's knocking at my door. Keep going. All right, so this rhythm we're doing right here, it's a New Orleans second line rhythm, right? And if you are, at any point, if you are depressed or something like that, and you want to just sit still, do that. In Unity, we're not going to force you to get up and dance if that's not where you are in your existence right now. However, if you want to get up and dance, I'm going to let you. So this second line feeling, and if you want to put your hands up anytime they come higher than your ears, that changes your blood pressure enough to make you more open to experience. So you're going to feel different as soon as you put your hands up. It's crazy. That's one of the reasons they're like, throw your hands in the air, right? That's why they do that, is because it's enough to change your mood. So moving around, and then looking at people and being okay with being seen, all of that just changes your mood. So this time let's do Somebody's Calling Out My Name. 1, 2, 3. Somebody's calling out my name. Somebody's calling out my name. Oh, Spirit, I'm bound to answer. Somebody's calling out my name. And knocking, let's do knocking again. Somebody's knocking at my door. Somebody's knocking at my door. Oh, Spirit, I'm bound to answer. Somebody's knocking at my door. Beautiful. Please be seated. That whole first part of the service is designed to help us wake up, unify, shake out any stuff, and get the blood pumping. In the center of every unity service, we're going to have a meditation, and we want to be awake, and we want to be breathing so that we can receive on all frequencies, not just from the neck up. But the first step into this more contemplative part of the service comes from one of our congregants who will bring us our reading today. You've probably seen this guy around. He's relatively new, within the last year or so, but now I know his name. I'm so proud. I know a name. Jack McClary, come on up.
Good morning, everybody. I have 2 quotes today. The first is from George Bernard Shaw. This is the true joy in life, being used for a purpose. Recognized by yourself as a mighty one, being a force of nature, instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances. My life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it what I can. It is a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. The second quote is from the Daily Word, titled Caring. I feel the call to care deep in my heart. It is a nudge from God within to make my divine gift of love manifest. Like all divine gifts, love only multiplies when it is shared. Caring acts too inspire others to bring more and more caring into the world. The more I invested, I become in helping and healing the world and my fellow spiritual beings. The more I grow in compassion and understanding. The more I love and the more I care, the more I grow into the full awareness and expression of my divinity. Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you and that you may be in good health, just as it is well with your soul. Thank you.
Light your lamp and pass it on. Let it shine for everyone, so we all may know
it on.
and pass it on. Let it shine for everyone,
So we all may know.
so we all may know, and we all may
Grant Olson.
I could listen to that to him for hours. Let's give him another round of applause. This is wonderful. So this year our theme has been about looking at all the different generations from going back 250 years, looking at the gifts that previous generations have brought us as well as challenges. And so we've worked our way up. We finished with the boomers last week. And now we're moving to Generation Jones. And that's approximately 1958 to 1971, although there is some talk about different years for that. It's also known as the Pluto in Virgo generation. So how many Generation Jones are in the room? Few. All right. So the boomers ushered in a time of freedom, self-expression, creativity, loudness, and the Generation Jones is like the cleanup crew after the party. So they've come in to sweep things up and put things in orders, but the boomers it just went a little crazy with. They got the name Generation Jones because they were born right after this incredible time of optimism, only to be hit with stark reality. They were jonesing for something better. The optimism of the 50s and the early 60s became sobering as we approached the 60s and the 70s. There were economic changes, there were high mortgage rates, there was a gas crisis, the Vietnam War, and the Watergate scandal. So there's reality just started to hit this generation. And I was thinking about, like, what is a symbol for this generation? And what came to me was the Greek mythical figure that illustrates some of the qualities of this generation, and that is Chiron, C-H-I-R-O-N. He was known for his wisdom, his kindness, and his knowledge of medicine. He was a Greek god. And he trained Greek heroes such as Jason, Asclepius, who was the father of medicine, and Hercules, for a few. So he was known for his expertise in healing herbs and medicine. And in his life, as he was a teacher, he was accidentally shot with an arrow, with a poisonous arrow, and it gave him a wound that was painful and incurable. So he lived with this pain. He lived with this wounding every single day. Now, one of the problems for him is that he was immortal. So there was no way to get away from this pain except to die. So what he ended up doing, and I shared the story of Prometheus like way back in January, if you remember. He was chained to a rock, and it's kind of a gruesome story, but he was suffering. And Chiron saw his suffering and decided to change places with him. And he said, I will free you from this rock if I can be mortal. Because if I'm mortal, then I can die, and if I can die, then I no longer have this pain. And so he was released from his pain through death. Now, Chiron symbolizes and is called the wounded healer. And a wounded healer is someone who has experienced deep pain and uses that pain to help others. So a question to you this morning is, how have you been wounded in your life? And how has this wound been a catalyst that has helped you to heal others in your life? Because Chiron illustrates the importance of compassion, mentorship, and the pursuit of knowledge, even in the face of suffering. So just think about that for a minute. How have you personally been wounded in your life, either by yourself, circumstances, or others? And how have you used this as a source for which you heal others, for which you are there for others? So you may be asking, okay, what does this have to do with Generation Jones? Well, during this period of time, there was an awareness of those who are wounded and of those who have disabilities. So in 1968, the universal symbol for accessibility and people with disabilities made its debut. So you know the symbol when you go to park your car and you're not supposed to park in the handicap spot, and that symbol that's there, that popped up in 1968. And so so when those symbols and kind of things pop up in society and in our culture, it's like we awaken to a different consciousness. All of a sudden there's an awareness of this. Now, it wasn't until 1999 that parking spaces were designated for handicapped drivers in parking lot, but the awareness began in 1968. The Special Olympics was also created and came out of a wounding by the Kennedy family. So Eunice Kennedy Shriver, she's John F. Kennedy's sister, she believed that mentally handicapped people should be happy and live meaningful lives. Now, her sister, Rosemary, was born with intellectual disabilities and other issues. And the doctors had gone to her mother and said, there's nothing you can do. It's absolutely hopeless. She probably needs to be institutionalized. And to make matters worse, Joe, her husband, arranged for her daughter to have a lobotomy. So now I think we're talking the 40s or the 50s back then. And it left her incapacitated. It left her unable to do hardly anything. And her sister, Eunice Kennedy, was so disturbed by this, and she knew it was wrong. And so this was a wounding that happened in their family that was not publicly talked about. But it is this wounding that gave her a vision that would eventually become the Special Olympics. So in 1963, she started a day camp called Camp Shriver, and that was for children with intellectual and physical disabilities, and she started this at her home in Maryland. And the camp met every year, and it addressed the concerns that disabled children, that they had very little opportunity to participate in athletic events. So Camp Shriver became an annual event, and the Kennedy Foundation gave grants to universities, recreation departments, and community centers to hold similar camps. Again, we see this awareness, right? All of a sudden there's an awareness, there's an awakening, not just to who we are and our self-expression, but to all beings. So the first Special Olympic Games were held in 1968 at Soldier Field in Chicago. And there were about 1,000 athletes from the United States and Canada that took place in this one-day event. And it is now the world's largest sports organization for children and adults with intellectual disabilities, and provides a year-round training to 5 million participants from 172 countries. So the logo is based on a sculpture called Joy and Happiness to All the Children of the World. So Eunice founded this Special Olympics to positively change attitudes toward mentally handicapped people. And she did it from her wounding, right? It was a wounding that happened in her family to her sister, and rather than, you know, as Jack read in the quote from Bernard Shaw about being a whining clod of earth or whatever it is to take a step and go, how can I change this? How can I fix this? How can I be a healer in this kind of situation? And so she created, not intentionally, you know, when we create something, we never know how it's going to turn out. We don't know if it's going to catch on and the world will catch this idea, or if it'll just go away. It doesn't matter, because we're taking steps and doing good in the world. Another example of wounded healers is those who are in 12-step programs. So 12-step programs have sponsors that have walked through addiction and other challenges. And so they too are wounded healers, and they offer emotional support and guidance as people work their way through the 12 steps. They help to navigate life's challenges and recovery, and they serve as role models, and they stress the importance of accountability. So studies have shown that individuals who have sponsors in 12-step programs, they're more likely to achieve and maintain long-term sobriety than those who don't have sponsors. Again, what's the wounding? The wounding is my addiction. And what do I do with that wound? I use it to understand, to be a sponsor, to be a mentor, to reach out and help others. Another organization that appeared much later is the Wounded Warrior Project, and that didn't originate until 2001, and it was to support service members who were coming back from the Middle East and having problems. So this organization offers mental health support and counseling, career counseling, physical health and wellness programs, long-term rehabilitative care, and they advocate on behalf of veterans. So again, we see that there's a consciousness that's being cultivated during the Generation Jones era that has been carried into our current times. It's an attitude of service and of caring for the whole community. So what else happened during this period of time? So during the late 60s and into the 70s, there was a new interest in vegetarianism, holistic healing, alternative forms of medicine, other Eastern religions, and those practices became more normal in our lives. Like, again, I've said this last week, like yoga, like Tai Chi, like those kind of meditation. The other thing that happened during this period of time is that there was an awareness of the earth as a living entity, and that it needed to be cared for and not just used for its resources. So, and this resulted in the first Earth Day, which was in April of 1970, again, right in this period of time. So what's interesting that is that a British astronomer in 1950, his name is Sir Fred Hoyle, he wrote this. He said, once a photograph of the Earth taken from outside is available, once the sheer isolation of the Earth becomes known, a new idea as powerful as any in history will be let loose. And that's what happened, because we didn't know, we couldn't see what the Earth actually looked like until 68 and 72. In 68, we saw the first photograph of the Earth rise over the moon, and that in itself was like, what is that? And then in 1972, we saw the first selfie of the Earth. We saw the first whole picture of it. And Steve Connor, he wrote this about the first photo. He said, they went to the moon, but they ended up discovering the Earth. They'd been drilled and they'd been trained for just about every eventuality, save one. The awe-inspiring sight of seeing our own planet hanging over an empty lunar horizon. It later became known as Earthrise, and the image of the world rising in the dark vastness of space over a sunlit lunar landscape became an iconic reminder of our planet's splendid isolation and delicate fragility. It was an image that would eventually launch 1,000 environmental movements. Such was its impact on the public consciousness. So we really see that this period of time was just kind of this explosion, and it's different from the previous generations because there's more of an inner awareness and a more holistic view of life and the world. So when we saw this picture of the Earth, it changed how we viewed reality. We saw that there's no borders. You know, before that, all we had of our maps and our little lines. You know, that's what I grew up with. How many of you remember seeing that photograph for the very first time? And how it changed you? Did it just affect you in such deep ways? I mean, now it's just part of the deal. You know, we know what it looks like. We know what, Jupiter looks like and all the rest of them. But it's become now the norm for us. It's become normal. So there's a marked shift in consciousness from the boomers to Generation Jones. So again, while the boomers came in with this creative self-expression and me energy, we look at the evolution of consciousness, and it's more of an inner energy, more about the other. And when we look at the evolution of consciousness as illustrated by spiral dynamics, we can see that we move from red, me, to green, the whole. So again, Generation Jones carries an awareness of the other, especially those who have been previously ignored. And I just want to say, again, from the quote that Jack read about George Bernard Shaw, my life belongs to the whole community. And as long as I live, it is my privilege to do what I can. And this is what I see that was birthed during this period of time, because he's talking about an attitude of service. And Howard Zinn said it this way: small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. So even though Generation Jones was often overshadowed by the boomers, they emerged as a force in the evolution of consciousness. They embody the archetype of the wounded healer as they channel their personal challenges into a sense of compassion and service. So this generation's legacy lies not in grand gestures of self-expression, but in the quiet dedication of healing the wounds of the world. So from advocating for the marginalized to championing environmental awareness, Generation Jones sowed the seeds of change that continue today. Their influence, again, is evident through the Special Olympics, through the Wounded Warrior Project, to the sponsors at the 12-Step program, as well as in the growing emphasis on holistic health and sustainable living. So, when we first glimpsed the Earth from space, it ignited a sense of global connectedness and a sense of responsibility. So as we live through these challenging times right now, how many of you heard the storm last night? That was pretty cool. But different, right? Different for Seattle. So as we live through these challenging times, the legacy of Generation Jones calls us to embrace compassion, service, and a deep respect for our planet. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. And it is through this collective action, inspired by the wounded healers of Generation Jones, that we can create a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for all beings. And it is so. Amen. Thank you, Generation Jones. I just missed it. So next Sunday, Diane Robertson will be speaking, as well as leading a Q&A following the service next Sunday, as she officially steps into co-ministry at Seattle Unity. So we invite you to be here to support both of us and in this change and in this move in our community as we step forward into the future. So I invite you to take your gift in your hands as we share our love offerings, knowing that as we give, we receive, that we create a vacuum. We create a vacuum in which to receive. So we thank you for your generosity in advance as we affirm our offering statement together. I give willingly, joyfully, and lovingly, knowing that God is the constant source of my supply. I give with graciousness and receive with gratitude.
Well, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to formally introduce myself. My name is Grant Olson, and I'm a cellist in the Seattle area. And I wanted to especially thank this wonderful band, if we could give them a round of applause real quick for having me as a guest artist this morning. It's such an honor. The last piece that you heard us playing was called One Summer's Day, and it's from the film called Spirited Away. I don't know if anyone here has seen that film. That's great. And this next piece that I'm going to be playing by myself, many of you may know. It's the prelude to Bach's G Major Cello Suite. And a lot of popular things, some commercials, movies, TV shows, you know. You'll recognize it.
so will our chaplain, whoever's on duty, want to come stand up here with me? And please know that if you are in need of prayer, you can come to Melissa and she'd be happy to pray with you. So first I'll bless our offering and then we'll go to our prayers here. So let's just take a moment as we dedicate and consecrate these gifts to the will, the work, and the way of the living Spirit of truth. And we pray that each gift returns to the giver a millionfold, that you have opened the door for good to enter your life. And for this we are grateful. Amen. So we have lots of people watching. Inez and Carmen, who usually sit here, are home in Mount Lake Terrace. Tom and Judy are on Bainbridge today. Margaret's in Corvallis. MJ is watching from Greenwood. Marcia, a different Marcia's in West Seattle. Scott, different Scott, in West Seattle. Louise is in West Lynn, Oregon. Alto's in Olympia. Diana's in Northgate. Diana's in Kenmore. Belinda's in Greenwood. Faith, Ireland, in Seward Park. Heidi is in Milton, Washington. Tracy, hi Tracy, is in Edmonds. Nancy, I think that's my friend Nancy, in Chicago. And Lori in West Seattle. But no prayers, but they did answer the question of what was the start of spirituality for you? Alto said, God found me in temple at 13 years old. Diana said 10. Louise was 11 or 12. Gary and Lynn said 9. Judy, 40. Tom, 60. Susan, about 7. As a kid, I didn't like all the talk about sin, so I came to Seattle Unity. And Margaret, I explored new avenues of spirituality in high school. Heidi said, I feel spirituality has always been a part of my life, and I'm sure it's great conversation if you're going upstairs and having coffee. All right, so there are prayers that came in through the room, so I invite you to turn your attention within and know that as I speak the names of people who have requested prayer, imagine seeing goodness, light, and healing moving in and to each one of them. So we begin by holding Ken and Junan, Chris, Chip, Shelley and Brian, Taj, Jason, Melissa, Leo, and Don. And we see that Spirit of God going before and healing them. For Lisa and Steve, we see that Spirit moving before them for safe travels. And Amy and Constance for healing. For Lauren, for guidance, seeing that Spirit going before her. For Joe Stokes, Julie and Polly, Christina, Andrew, and baby Tyler, hold them in your heart for a moment. Send them that light. We hold in our prayers Ian as he makes a peaceful transition, and May Evans for her soul and spirit. For Grace, we see prosperity and divine order manifesting in her life. And Scott, we also hold in our bless Steve and Shelley, Nancy and Susan, Mike and the Rubin family. And we hold Michael in our prayers, Michael Treha, as he undergoes surgery, and we see it successful and him healed, whole, and well. And if you have thought of anyone else, please speak their names right now. And we also hold all those who are suffering, all those in troubled places in the world, as we affirm our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
That's the truth. Yes, it is. Thank you, Alexander. Let's sing a closing song together. I invite you to stand as you are able. If you'd like to hold hands, you may, but you don't have to. This is unity. If you don't want to hold somebody's hand, I'm not even going to ask you why. Let's take this attitude of service with us as we go out into the world. We will be the light. We will be the light and the hope and the hope and the strength and the strength the world needs.